great basketball.
Defender to the basket, Jason Tatum.
Be covering pre and post game back on this channel.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back into Celtics Postgame Live. I am your host, Robby Haytayan. Joined with me is my co-host, Justin Lowe. Ian Angelo joining us shortly on the show. Justin, the Celtics catch a 139-96 home win on the Brooklyn Nets tonight. Celtics started up as much as 52-8 in that second quarter. Jason Tatum led the game, scoring 31 points. He had 18 of those things in the first. JB 26. JT and JB combined for 57. Nets struggled. That is the 10th straight win for Boston over Brooklyn. Kyrie Irving led all net scores. He had 20 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists. Cam Thomas off the bench. He did his thing. 19 points wasn't enough though. However, Boston finishes off Brooklyn by as much. Oh my God, 43 points. Justin, you know the deal. Your thoughts, your reactions, your opinions, your takeaways on tonight's dominating C's win.
I told you before I hopped on the call, I expected a win tonight. I didn't expect a 43-point win in the fashion that the Celtics did it in, right? So the Celtics have, I believe it was a 2-7 record coming into games where they've had 3 or more days off. That was going to be a factor into tonight's game. Brooklyn already a tough matchup with or without Kevin Durant. But Boston, from the tip, just, I guess, breezed along. I mean, this game was like a snap of a finger, and we saw Brooklyn go on a 17-4 run, and, you know, we were texting each other, and it's like, we're still up 22. Like, yeah. The Celtics, that's how dominant of a night the Celtics were tonight. You know, every time Brooklyn, you know, kind of got on a little run, Joe Harris starting to hit shots, Seth Curry starting to hit shots, Celtics were able to collect themselves, come back down, run a fluid offense. I thought Robert Williams, I actually gave Robert Williams a player spotlight tonight over on our Instagram page, just because, yeah, Tatum and Brown have phenomenal shooting nights. It combined 14 main three-pointers on 57 points, but it was Robert Williams for me that really was the game changer tonight, getting those missed shots, second chance opportunities, the rebounding, the blocks. I mean, he did it all. In my opinion, the best game he's had since his return from injury rather. I mean, there's a lot to dive in about this game.
Yeah, I mean, it was what we've been used to against Brooklyn for the past 3 years now.
Right.
This Celtics team is the best part, I think, about this win is that we're still not healthy. We still haven't played many games with our full lineup. Derek White is supposed to be a reserve. He's supposed to come off the bench. He has started in all but 8 games this year. 8 games. That is supposed to be our 7th man. He has been starting for us. So positive sign there. We looked like that 3-game skid was rough. We got that win against the Lakers, barely in overtime. I'm very happy with how we handled ourselves tonight. We went straight to business. Shots were falling. We were rebounding. The pace was there. Honestly, Justin, I just don't think this Brooklyn Nets team can hang with us. I think we are the Brooklyn Nets with a more complete, healthy, and grown production. I think that's what we are, and I think that's what you see, and you're going to continue to see when we play Brooklyn. Obviously, Brooklyn without Kevin Durant, they're going to have to get by without him. You figure if he's there, he adds a little bit extra to the mix. Maybe it's not 43, and maybe it's 14, whatever the case may be. But nonetheless, Robert Williams is definitely someone I want to talk about. Best game of the season scoring-wise by far. 16 points in a matchup where Nick Claxton has been hot all season long. He has been doing his thing. He's been averaging right around 18 points per game over the last 6 games since KD's gone down. Claxton tonight really struggled. 9 points, 6 rebounds on the board. On the flip side, Robert Williams, 16 points, 9 rebounds. He shot the ball 7 of 8. He continues his hot streak from the field. How important is Robert Williams really going forward if he can stay healthy for us?
It's so important, especially a matchup like these. The Brooklyn Nets, this is this might be a team we need to get by in the playoffs. Is that for certain? No, but the Nets are certainly in that mix between the teams of, Philly and Milwaukee. Like it's important to see how we match up against these teams. And Robert Williams and Claxton, I like how Mike Gorman and Brian Scalabrine put it. If you caught it on the NBC Sports Boston, these guys are like clones of themselves. They're very similar games. And I think Robert Williams handled this matchup really well. I love the physicality he played with tonight. I saw a little couple extra bumps, nothing like you needed to call, but like he wasn't letting anybody push him around, including Claxton. And he was getting his fingers on the loose balls and, getting those 50-50 balls off the rim. And this was a Robert Williams type game. And, maybe not all 43 points were from him, but 16 of those bad boys on 7 of 8 shooting from the field, as well as some free throws. That's going to be huge for the Boston Celtics. And then to have a guy like Luke Cornett come in off the bench, drop 12, 4, and 4, like that is so big. That is so big, especially in matchups like these.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And joining us, we got Ian. Ian, welcome. You know the deal. Your thoughts, your reactions, your takeaways for tonight's dominating win at the Garden.
First things first, I got to shout out Justin. The haircut's looking clean.
Thanks.
I noticed. Hey, I noticed. It works.
I appreciate it.
I mean, is it even a rivalry anymore? I mean, Celtics have won 10 in a row versus the Brooklyn Nets. This game was basically over after the first quarter. I mean, 46 points in the first quarter. First 5 minutes, this game was over. I mean,
it's like 37-5 or something.
Was this a wire to wire win, or did they score first?
No, the Celtics. I think the Celtics
wire to
scored
wire.
first. Yeah,
I think it was 3-0. I think it was 3-0. Yeah.
All right, that's what I thought.
But yeah, what a win by the Celtics tonight. I mean, they just imposed themselves. The Brooklyn Nets just have no idea how to beat the Celtics. That's pretty much what it comes down to. They just have no idea what they're doing when it comes to facing the Celtics. And yeah, they didn't have Kevin Durant and they didn't have Ben Simmons, but I really don't think that would have mattered with the fact that the Celtics were literally hitting everything.
No. Let me tell you though, I think that really quick. Sorry, Rob. I just want to go ahead and say, I know JB and Kyrie, they're buddies off the court, but that crossover behind the back all the way,
that was
dude. That felt personal. That felt really personal. Like we see Kyrie doing those types of. We don't see JB do those types of.
End of the day, you got to figure Kyrie chose to leave these guys. End of the day, it's a business, and they're still buddy. But when you got to figure when they step it on the court, they're thinking like, "Hey, listen, you could have been doing this with us, and instead, he's off doing his own thing with Durant." So I think they're taking this thing a little bit personal. No questions.
I want to know what Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce did to him yesterday because it felt like, they had. God. I mean.
I think
Brown
at this
looked
point,
like they were on a different level tonight.
At this point, I would love Brooklyn in the second round. I love Brooklyn in
the conference finals, bro.
Brooklyn in the conference finals.
But if the finals or if the standings were final today, what are we? 52 games done. 52 games in. Yeah. If the standings hold, which they probably won't, but you'd get a taste 53 games in to where 52 games in to where the standings are being at the end of the year. We'd get Brooklyn if they finish the deal off against Cleveland in the first round or second round. Sorry, I 5 games. I'd give them a game. I think they take game 3 back in Barclays.
Sweet, yeah.
But it just feels like this. First of all, we love playing Brooklyn. I really do just think we love beating Kyrie Irving. I really think that is a thing that this team likes playing Brooklyn. They like playing the guy that left them. I really do. I think Tatum likes going up against Durant because Tatum kind of feels like he is the next Durant. I think JB loves to do his thing against Kyrie. And I think Smart and those guys like to kind of run this team up. I mean, it is crazy. 10 straight on a team. And you guys remember last year when we got off to that 28-2 lead happened again. So it's like at this point, if I'm Brooklyn, I am dodging the Celtics at all costs because it really looks like this is the only team that could handle them in the playoffs.
I mean, it's one of those things with Brooklyn. you never know when they're like the Clippers in the East. I mean, you never know if they're going to be 100% healthy at any time.
Yeah.
And even when they are, they're inconsistent at best when it comes to the way that Kevin Durant and Kyrie play together. When they play together, they look like one of the best duos in the NBA. But that's the thing. It almost feels like they're never able to play together, whether some type of circumstance comes up, no matter what it is.
Right.
So it's just kind of rough for Brooklyn right now. And if you're Brooklyn in the playoffs, it's going to be a little interesting because, yeah, they have a good defense. Like, their defense is much improved from last year. But, I mean, if their role players, like guys like Royce O'Neal and Watanabe and Seth Curry and Joe Harris, if they're not hitting shots, it's going to be a long series for the Nets in the playoffs.
Yeah, well, it's just like I look at Boston and I look at Brooklyn and I see two very similar teams, but, you know, there's so much that goes into a playoff run. And one of those things is how many games have you played with your full lineup? Like, is it working? Are the wheels turning come playoff time? And I think there's been this idea. Am I still there? You guys am I coming through still?
Your voice is there.
Your audio is coming through. Your camera's frozen.
I don't know if he's still here, but
all right, well, Rob's gone.
Well, I kind of clicked him off because he's just frozen in an unpleasant face right now. So, but I think this win, I didn't expect a 43-point win whatsoever, Ian. I expected a win, but not by this much. I think the way the Celtics came out was like something you don't see. Right, like I was mentioning to Rob, Celtics are 2-7, I believe, coming off of 3 or more days rest. That was not a problem coming into tonight. I thought it would be. And on top of all of this, it was on national TV, ESPN, Mike Breen, Doris Burke on the call. Like, Celtics made a statement. Celtics made a full-blown statement tonight.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be another thing. And it's like, you know, with the 2-7 start thing, I'm not going to lie to you, though, with the way the Celtics were playing the last couple games, it felt like they needed it. I mean, I saw a stat where it was like 5 of the last 6 games have been like in at least like near like 3 points, you know, like between 3 points at the end of the game. 3 of those games went to overtime. And, you know, the Celtics just looked like they were starting to run out of gas a little bit. So the fact that they were able to get the 2 days rest, I feel like this was like the first time where the 2 days rest actually helped them. And they were able to, you know, kind of reset, recharge, and just come out firing.
Rob, what were you saying?
Oh yeah, sorry. I hate to backtrack the conversation, but I do think that when I look at like the Nets, a playoff, the wheels have to be turning when the playoffs arrive. And I think we've seen this with the Clippers. We've seen this with the Nets. You saw it with the Lakers about 3 years ago, back when they played the Suns. This idea that you can enter the playoffs and just make it work and make it happen. That doesn't work. That's not basketball. That's not sports. Your team has to be rolling when the playoffs are coming. There's stuff like health. There's chemistry. There is, you know, like I said, is there momentum entering the playoffs? The Celtics were so good last year because they were rolling into the playoffs. All they knew was good basketball. And a part of that is being healthy. I look at a team like the Brooklyn Nets. Availability is the best ability, guys, right? We have been so supporters of that. This team isn't available. Durant isn't available. Kyrie isn't available, hasn't been available. He has this year, but normally speaking, his career, I don't think he's played over 66 games more than once in his career. So
Ben
like
Simmons, not available.
Ben Simmons is another great one. He's in and out of the lineups. Right now he's dealing with a knee injury. So it's like, I look at Brooklyn and I think Brooklyn is as good as the second round, as good as Durant can take them. I look at a team like Boston, like I said, we just outmatched them. I don't think this idea that the Clippers have done and you know, the Nets and the Lakers and honestly right now Golden State, although Golden State is looking a lot better recently, you need to enter the playoffs with the wheels turning and things going in the right direction. I don't know if Brooklyn's I don't know if they'll do that.
Yeah, that's the thing is availability is the best ability or whatever that how that saying goes. But like That's really important. Like, people don't understand, like, especially right now where the trade deadline is what, next week?
Yeah,
Like,
7 days.
that's like, where do you go from here? Because you haven't had your full team yet, so you're not at your full potential. But that question is running out very quick. It's like, when are we going to get our full team? Like, when is everybody going to get healthy? When is everybody going to get mentally ready to get on the court together? Because that seems to be a struggle in the last year and a half, 2 years. Like, this Brooklyn team has a lot of questions to be asked, and they have a lot of answers to give out because Jacques Vaughn is made out for this job, by the way. I think the Brooklyn Nets are
Yeah.
so much better off with Jacques Vaughn over Steve Nash. So, like, we'll go there, and then we'll also say, like, when guys like Watanabe, who really fits well with Kevin Durant, like, he was playing his best basketball when Kevin Durant was on the court, but, like, they need to find guys that can consistently produce. Seth Curry, he's had his really good games. Tonight, he wasn't consistent whatsoever. I thought it was actually Joe Harris, but again, with the availability thing, Joe Harris has been injury prone. He only started getting back and getting his reps up late last year, early this year. So, Brooklyn it's a mess in Brooklyn, in my opinion. Yes, they've had a little turnaround before Kevin Durant's injury. Yes, they're actually winning games without Kevin Durant this year as opposed to losing 11 straight last year. But they still have a lot of questions to answer, coming at the deadline. I mean, what moves can you make? Who's going to want a Ben Simmons, right? Like, say they look to trade Ben Simmons. Who's going to want Ben Simmons, who is playing the way he's been playing? And then on top of that, he's never available. He's very rarely available. There's games where Jacques Vaughn has benched him towards the end of the game. Yeah. Who's going to want that?
I mean, I think Brooklyn runs into two problems. One of them is that they can't stay healthy. And the root of that is their 2-star players don't play. They can't get through 82 games. And when you can't get through 82 games healthy, you're going to have a hard time in the playoffs. Their other problem is I think Brooklyn has to seriously take a look in the mirror and think to themselves, can we beat this Celtics team in a 7-game series? Because you're going to have to get to the finals. And I think I'm sorry, just one more thing.
No, you're good.
If they can make a move to fix one of those two things, then do it. Otherwise, they're in a standstill.
I just don't think a backup big. They keep saying a backup big. I don't think that solves all of their problems for them.
No, I think they need a guy like Malcolm Brogdon. They need somebody else outside of Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. Like, Ben Simmons was supposed to be that guy, but guess what? You had that guy in James Harden, and you decided to trade him. So, I mean, technically, if you're the Brooklyn Nets, it just kind of feels like their window was shut closed when they lost to the Bucks a couple of years ago. It felt like their championship window just slammed after that series was over. Because ever since then, it's just been roster turnover and different management and different coaching and different philosophy. It's just one of those things where it's like the Nets have never been consistent, ever, through this entire Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant experiment. I mean, KD wasn't even playing when he first signed with the Nets, and Kyrie only played like 20 games their first season.
That was the bubble year, I think.
That was the bubble.
So it's one of those things where it's like
Kyrie didn't even go to the bubble
year, and Kyrie didn't even go to the bubble. So it's one of those things where it's like there's been so much roster turnover over the years. It kind of reminds me of like Kevin when Braun was in Cleveland. The last Cleveland years, like the 2018 Cavs team. Like that team basically had to change rosters halfway through the season just to, stay afloat. And obviously LeBron carried them in the East, but it's one of those things where the Brooklyn Nets don't have a guy like LeBron in 2018 to carry a roster like this.
I think the East is starting to be too powerful to be doing what the Brooklyn Nets are doing, right? Like, we look at everybody's
the
improving
NBA as a
in the
whole
Eastern
is
Conference.
like that. You can't do that in the NBA in general. Even in the Western Conference, you can't do that.
I think Brooklyn's real problem is, I think to win a championship, very few times have you seen a core just thrown together and boom, they win it. Raptors, maybe 2019, but even still, that core was with each other for some time. They just added that piece to put them over the edge. Yeah, exactly. So I look at the Nets and I think Durant, Kyrie, they've been here 4 years, but they're Joe Harris, sure, Claxton was drafted there. But outside of that, a lot of these guys, Royce O'Neal's new, TJ Warren's
Seth
new.
Curry.
Seth Curry, he's been there too. He was a deadline pickup. Simmons was a deadline pickup. I look at who else? Patty Mills, 2
Watanabe.
years. Watanabe, right? So yeah, sure. Let's look at Boston. This core's been together 8 years. Milwaukee core's been together 8 years. Philly's kind of running up on Harden's the new guy. Tobias has been there 4 years. Maxey was drafted there. Thibault was drafted there. That's a core. Look at Cleveland. Those guys were all drafted. Memphis, everyone there was drafted. Denver over there, everyone was drafted. That's a core that's been together. Golden State. I mean, the list goes on and on.
Right.
Like, you have to have an established, healthy, established route to succeed. And the Nets don't have that. And I think Brooklyn, it's really tough just to put two superstars out there and say, go ahead, make it happen. I think maybe the Lakers did it that 1 year in the bubble, but outside of that, you haven't really seen that. I don't think you're going to see that from Brooklyn. And I really do. I think if Brooklyn doesn't make a deep run this summer or this postseason, you're going to see in the summertime, Durant doesn't have a lot of great basketball left in him. He's probably got 3-4 more years. He's not going to want to waste his time here. Kyrie's on contract. Like, Brooklyn, this is a big deadline. I don't think they make any big time moves. I don't think they trade Durant. I don't think they trade Kyrie, but there's a lot of pressure in Brooklyn right now. No question.
Yeah. And I mean, it's kind of crazy that this show kind of turned into just us.
Yeah. You know what? Let's
there's really not much to say about the
let's
Celtics.
switch it. Well, I hope my Wi-Fi isn't going out. It's giving me that circle. But Pritchard, let's talk about Peyton Pritchard.
Okay. What do you want to talk about Peyton Pritchard?
Are we going to trade him?
Yeah. Rob, you're leaving us on suspense here. Cliffhanger. All right, that's this week's episode.
Anyway, Justin, how about this? Let's talk about the trade deadline in general. How about that? Do you think the Celtics need to make a move? Let's start with that. Do you think they need to make a move?
Okay, so do they need to make a move? No. Will the move that they make, if they do make it, be beneficial to them? Yes. I think there's no way they lose out in a trade unless they overpay. Let me just say this. I think the Celtics are much better off in the buyout market, looking for, like, if they're looking for a vet, so reports are saying they're looking for somebody to add for a regular season guy, maybe add a little bit of playoff depth if they need to go deep into the bench. That's going to be another guy like Blake Griffin in terms of, maybe an established vet who can fill in minutes here, and a guy like, I'd love to go after Cam Reddish. I know that's not the buyout market, but we've talked about that. He's a young guy. He's somebody who you could throw in on that deep bench, play him a few minutes off the bench. I mean, the last 2 weeks of the regular season, sometimes, hey, maybe if we lock up the first seed and we don't have to worry about that, that's going to give guys like Sam Hauser, Peyton Pritchard, a guy like Cam Reddish, a perfect opportunity to shine and get some rest before the playoffs. But I think a backup wing and a backup center, for sure. And I say backup center, I know Luke Cornett has been filling in Rob's role really good. I mean, really good so far this year. I have no complaints. And I'd love to keep Luke Cornett around just for the simple fact that he's an amazing teammate and locker room guy, lifts the spirits up a lot. You could tell that everybody enjoys Luke Cornett's presence, including the guys in the front office like Brad Stevens. But I'd love to go after a guy like Boogie Cousins in free agency in the buyout market, whatever that is. But I don't think the Celtics do too much.
I think you gotta. I hate to say it, but I think you got to get rid of Pritchard. I think Pritchard has to go.
So here's the thing. Pritchard's gone after this year. Like, exactly. No hard feelings. Pritchard's gone after this year. He wants a bigger
role. He wants a bigger role.
I understand.
Exactly.
Look, like, Celtics fans have to understand is, like, they're having such a hard time on Udoka. They give Udoka a hard time, and they give him Mazzulla a hard time. It's like, it's hard to give Peyton Pritchard minutes. More so,
and that's my point. Go out to a guy that there's minutes for.
Well, right, but when you have your guards as Marcus Smart, Jaylen Brown, Malcolm Brogdon, and Derek White, even throw in Jason Tatum, who plays the one at times, like, that's your guard rotation. how are you going to crack minutes? Because all 5 of those guys I just named are easily starting point guards anywhere, any 29 other teams in this league. Like how is Pritchard going to, that's what people don't
I think
understand. People
that's
don't
the
look
problem.
at that.
And I think
but people don't look at that.
I know, but when the Celtics are healthy, off the bench, you have White, Brogdon, Pritchard. Pritchard's a great he is a great bench piece. Great
Spark
bench
plug.
piece, right? He was a great spark plug for us in the playoffs last year. We're trying to win an NBA championship. And when the playoffs roll around, I need someone to come in for Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown for 15 to 20 minutes a game and let them stay fresh. A playoff run, if we're trying to win the finals, that means that you can't play 45 minutes of Jason Tatum all season long and then expect him to do that for 2 straight months in the playoffs, which is it's a much more physical game. Like, you can't do that. You need your superstars to have their guy to check in. For the Bucks, it's Bobby Portis. So it's like, I think I love Pritchard. What he's done in Boston's great. We drafted him. He's been great. I have no complaints. I think he's a little short, but like, I love Pritchard.
That was a shot.
Right? I do. I mean, I think he's an
Damn,
undersized guard, but Pritchard recently has been pissing me off because of just like, it's just like you watch him and you're like, he's not bad, he's good, but it's like, we don't need, like, this is great, but we don't need this. I think we need a wing. And I think if you can't get a wing, Jakob Poeltl or a big man, Boogie Cousins, I think you could add a little bit of center depth on the bench. But for me, I am shipping Peyton Pritchard off for the best available wing. Honestly, listen, Jay Crowder in Phoenix, like, those are possibilities. You have to think about that. It's championship or bust this season. Having Peyton Pritchard on your team, you have to ask yourself, does that increase the Celtics' chances at winning an NBA championship? And the answer is no.
I really think that Jay Crowder thing, that's funny you say that, because I really think Peyton Pritchard would flourish in a Phoenix type role where there's talks about Chris Paul declining his contract and not coming back for the Suns. So time's running out with Chris Paul. Cameron Payne's either A, always hurt, or B, he's starting to decline as well. Like, this could be a perfect opportunity for Peyton Pritchard. Bring Jay Crowder back to Boston. I still think Crowder has a solid 2 to 3 years left in terms of what he can consistently give you. I don't know what's going on up there with Jay Crowder, but that's a good point. And people need to watch out for that, where Jay Crowder goes. I would hate for him to end up in Milwaukee.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that would be a sucky thing.
Yeah,
well, see, I was listening
Bobby
to him on NBA Today. They were talking about PJ Tucker when he got traded to Milwaukee. PJ Tucker was on the Rockets doing absolutely nothing, like not even playing, and then he gets traded to Milwaukee and they go win a championship. So
yeah.
I don't want to see that when it comes down to that. If I'm the Celtics, I mean, I think you try to go after a guy like Jay Crowder. I feel like Jay Crowder he's one of those guys that fit what the Celtics are trying to do. Granted, he's from like the old core, so there's not many people left from that team, but he still knows Marcus Smart. He still knows Jaylen Brown. He still knows those kind of guys.
Also,
Al Horford.
The Celtics' depth is good, but is it really? The guard depth is great, but outside of the guards,
that's what I've been saying,
like
that
people say we have.
I mean,
great
really,
depth.
if we think about it, we've been saying that all season. We've been saying that since the preseason. Like,
yeah, it's like we have great depth
in the forward
but
position.
I don't know if it is, because if Hauser's not making his threes, he's essentially useless on the court.
He's a liability.
Exactly. So Hauser, you're asking Hauser to play a really big role in the playoffs here, right? He's your second wing off the bench. So I think you have to go out. You got to look at guys. No. Terrence Ross. Am I going out? Am I lagging?
No, I don't know if I think
you're good.
You're good. We're all wrong.
T-Ross?
T-Ross.
Did you just say I love T-Ross.
Yeah, Terrence Ross is the guy you have to look at. Cam Reddish is a guy. Jay Crowder is another guy you got to look at. You got to look at the buyout market. But I really do think if you roll into the playoffs with this little thin, one injury in the big man or wing department, and you're looking rough, I think you're playing with fire. Yes, Grant has been iffy. He's a good wing and / big man off the bench, but I think one more piece and you're set, you're comfortable. Otherwise, one injury and you're really, really playing with fire in the playoffs.
Yeah, and I feel like I love Luke Cornett. I do. I don't think he's the answer at backup big. You need a legit backup big, in my opinion. Like I said, I love Luke. I love Blake. Neither one of them are ones that are going to go out in the playoffs and play legit minutes for you. Because, and, knock on wood when I say this, but you never know what's going to happen with Robert Williams. You don't know if he's going to stay
Even Al
healthy this
Horford.
entire time. Even Al Horford. Al Horford's, 37 now? I mean, you don't know what we're going to have left in Al. So it's one of those things where, I'm not saying it's a huge, make your entire trade deadline finding a wing or a backup big, but it has to be something you have to look into. And I have a feeling Brad Stevens has looked into it. I saw something earlier where it's when it comes to Brad Stevens, the trades that you hear about aren't really the trades that are happening. The Derek White trade last year, that came out of nowhere. Malcolm Brogdon trade came out of nowhere. So if and I bet Brad Stevens is doing stuff. I bet he's calling around. I bet he's looking at what he can get. It's just kind of one of those wait and see type things. And I bet Brad Stevens is if Brad Stevens makes a trade during the trade deadline, it's going to come right at the wire, right when the clock strikes, what is it, 4 o'clock that it ends?
3 o'clock, right? Yeah.
3 o'clock. Right when it strikes 3 o'clock, I feel like that's when you're going to hear a move from the Celtics, because it's just kind of one of those things where the Celtics just need more depth, and you could always use more depth.
I mean, we could we got the best record in basketball at the same time, but it's like I know
we're talking we're 6th in the East right now. We're talking this team's
but this is also stuff you have to talk about when you're going for championships.
Yeah, it is championship plus. We aren't settling for an Eastern Conference Finals bounce. Last year, really, the expectation was not championship or bust. It was, you got to remember, we were swept in the first round the year prior. So kind of last year, we're kind of thinking all right, we don't know what we have at the start of the year. Mid-season rolled around, we're terrible.
21 and 25. Yeah.
Right. And then things started to pick up, and you're like, okay, well, maybe we can make it a second round playoff run now. We look good.
Mm-hmm.
And then we really started to pick things up. You're like, okay, Eastern Conference Finals are coming, and then the playoffs rolled around. You're thinking to yourself, well, hold on, we can make a finals run. That's in the realm of possibility. This year is championship or bust.
I just thought of a player, and I love this player, and I don't know how it slipped my mind until right now. Naz Reid in Minnesota.
I would like Naz Reid.
He's not gonna sign back with Minnesota. Minnesota already said they're not gonna re-sign him. If Brad Stevens can pull off Naz Reid from Minnesota, he's basically Robert Williams light. He's basically a shorter version of Robert Williams. I love Naz Reid. So if we could get a guy like Naz Reid on this team, I feel like that'd be the perfect answer at backup big.
Yeah, it is a lot of pressure, I think, for Brad. It's been noted that this team and Brad and Wick, they are going to spend. They will go into the luxury tax if that's what it takes.
And Wick already said he wanted them to spend.
Yeah,
he said it.
Brad has the green light to make the moves. I trust what Brad was his vision. I trust it. I think you also got to look at the factor of, you don't want to mess chemistry up. That's a very big thing. Everyone likes each other. Pritchard's a guy that the team kind of likes. The fans like. You getting rid of that. You don't. Do you really want to shake things up mid-season? Those are all things you got to look at. However, the Boston Celtics, they took care of business tonight, plain and simple. From start to finish, final buzzer, tip off the final buzzer, it was complete domination. Celtics win 139-96. Like I said at the start of the show, JT led the way, 31-3. JB 26-3. Guess what? Robert Williams did his thing. He had 16 points, 9 rebounds. Justin, Ian, any final words before we end this show off?
Big game for D. White, double-double, 10 rebounds, not assists. It was rebounds. 14 points, 10 rebounds. Just huge game for the Celtics. This was a big win. National TV. You showed what you could do tonight in terms of you showed how you're the top 3 offensive team in the league, and you showed how you're the top 5 defensive team in the league. You put those two things together. The Celtics really played good defense tonight. It wasn't Brooklyn just missing shots. The Celtics really poured it on both ends tonight. And hey, you got to do it again against Phoenix. This Phoenix team is going to want to come blow you out on your home court on NBA TV after the Celtics. I don't know if you guys remember, but the Celtics demolished the Phoenix Suns about a month or two ago on their home court. So, D Book might be back. He's thinking about returning soon. So we'll have to see. But huge win tonight. Good win tonight. Great way to get back on track.
Yeah, something I want to say is congratulations to Joe Mazzulla for being the All-Star for Team Giannis coach. He 100% deserves it. I don't know how many interim head coaches have been All-Star game starting, like All-Star game coaches. I don't even know if that's a stat, but Joe Mazzulla is breaking the mold of what an interim head coach is. It's a stat now. He's breaking the mold for interim head coaches. And, I loved Marcus Smart's reaction when he's like, oh, Joe Mazzulla is so humble. Like, he's all like, nah, it's not a big deal. Marcus Smart's like, bullshit. He's like,
yeah,
that was incredible. I mean, it's kind of crazy to see how much Joe Mazzulla has just completely come in and just made the Celtics into a powerhouse. So,
right.
Congratulations to Joe Mazzulla for being the All-Star game coach. 100% deserves it. And I mean, I can't wait to watch the All-Star game to see Brown and Tatum in there.
Yeah, absolutely. It was, like I said,
reserves get
announced tomorrow.
Oh, okay, good. I thought I missed it.
Yeah, reserves are tomorrow. I thought it was today too. It felt like it took way too long, but no, it's tomorrow apparently. So.
All right. Well, the C's balled with Edelman was in the house. The place looked like it was rocking. But like I said, C's take a pretty easy dub tonight. Kyrie returns to the Garden again, loses again, 139-96. Next game is Friday night, 7:30 on NBA TV. Again, we're still kind of rocking the whole national television thing. We're still riding that wave here. I think it's their fourth straight game. C's versus Suns, 7:30 tip-off. You can catch that game on NBA TV or NBC Sports Boston. I'm Rob. Next to me is Justin. Below me is my boy Ian. And